In this video, we're going to be looking at correct score trading on the Betfair market and how we can keep it as low risk as possible. Backed up with tons of real life trades so you can see it for yourself step by step. Go grab a nice cold beer or a rum punch and let's get into it. So we do get tons and tons of emails from people worried about trading a correct score, worried that it might be one of the most risky markets to trade. However, it all really starts with your target score formula. And this is the set of correct scores you will be backing from the start of the match. Now, it's not easy to pick one correct score and land on it. And thankfully, when you're trading the correct score market on Betfair, you don't need to do that. You can pick multiple scores to make life much easier. And the beauty of trading the correct score market is that you can incorporate a plan A, which is potentially backing one team or backing a favorite, but also a plan B. So you're covered in all sorts of scenarios and those surprise scores, since we all know that football is not the easiest to predict. But here's the thing, we obviously can't cover all of the correct scores. So you'd want to assess on a match by match basis and decide which scores to cover as some sort of plan B. And you're going to be seeing a lot more of this when we get into the real life demonstrations. But here's another thing which a lot of people struggle to get their head around. The more scores covered, the lower your profit potential. And I often get emails from people saying, oh, well, if I cover 1-0 and 1-1 and 0-1 and 2-1 and 1-2 and 2-2 and 3-0 and 3-1 and then 0-3. And my response is usually along the lines of, well, you could do that, but then your profit is going to be much, much lower, much potentially lower. So you have to find a balance somewhere along the line of covering multiple scores, but also aiming for a sustainable profit. But anyway, what we're going to be doing today in the live trading examples coming up is we're going to be covering a lot more target scores than usual, than you might have seen in our previous videos, and we're going to be demonstrating how it can play out, because with a little bit of trading magic you could still build up to creating a significant profit and giving yourself a sustainable risk reward ratio. So do you know what we're going to do is we're just going to dive right in to those real life demonstrations right now. But if you are enjoying this video, or you think you're about to enjoy it, I would really love it if you could click the like button to support the channel. These videos are for you for free. All you have to do in return, click the like button if you want us to keep making them. Also hit the subscribe button and that notification bell to make sure you get all our new videos as soon as they come out. As you might know, we don't leave a lot of these videos up online for very long. We often take them down in time. So if you want to see them, make sure you got those notifications turned on. Anyway, let's dive into it. We're going to check out some real life trading demonstrations and some analysis. Let's go. We're looking at a match here from the Bundesliga 2 with Fürth against Kaiserslautern. And if you look at this market, 2.9 for the home team, 2.48 for the away team. So it's a pretty even matchup, okay? There is Kaiserslautern are the favourites, but in football, that's not a clear favourite. And as you might know from following a lot of these videos, when we're trading the correct score market, we tend to want a clear favourite, because then we've got a good idea of which correct scores to cover. Well, anyway, we've still got involved and we've covered an awful lot of them. And as you can see, what we've covered here is the 0-1 and the 1-0 to both sides. So no matter who takes the lead, we should be in a position to potentially do something. But then the rest of it pretty much favours the home team, okay, with our plan Bs being things like a 1-1 or a 2-1, and also that 0-1 to Kaiserslautern. So anyway, it's going to be interesting. Let's see how this one goes in play. It's just about to kick off. So here we are at half time in this one, and it is 1-0 to the away team. So that's not great for us. Remember, we've obviously gone in favouring that home team. So 2-0, 3-0, those score lines are completely dead to us. And we're on the back foot, really. We're on the back foot in this one. So anyway, the good news is that we did cover the 0-1 to Kaiserslautern in case of this eventuality. And we're going to anticipate more goals. And also, we want to lower down the risk on this as much as we can. And so, no, that's not right. Let me try and put this down to 0. Yeah, let's just lay it off at 6.2, pretty much down to 0, 30 pence. And let's just get that in the market. And so anyway, what you can see is that it's lowered down the risk, so we shouldn't be taking a full loss on this match in the very least, which is good news again. If Kaiserslautern do score again, we've just got to hold our hands up and say, do you know what, we've called it wrong, move on to the next match. At least we've lowered down the loss, right, and not taken a full hit on our stake. But an equaliser to Firth, and we're back in the match, okay? We're back in the trade, rather. So anyway, let's see what happens in the second half. It's 1-0 to Kaiserslautern at half-time. 55 minutes, we've got an equaliser. We're back in the trade. So it's Firth 1, Kaiserslautern 1, and that puts us on this 1-1 scoreline. We're going to use some of the green that we built up, and we're going to pretty much sacrifice it. Remember, we're still in danger, okay? We're still in danger on this trade, and if there is another Kaiserslautern goal, that will eliminate us. It will kill the trade, and we'll have to definitely take a loss because we don't have any score lines after that. But anyway, let me try and just put this down to 0. I'm just trying to get this in the market, and we should then be in a position where if we do get that Kaiserslautern second goal, our loss now is only going to be around a 31% loss on our stake, which is something we can handle. Okay, now obviously a lot of people, they do watch these videos and they're like, well, what happens when you lose a trade? What happens when it goes wrong? Well, in this case, Kaiserslautern score the next goal, we're going to lose 30% on our stake, and then that's it. Okay, we just move on to the next trade. The idea is that on the winning trades, we can win a lot more than, say, this 31% loss that we could potentially take if Kaiserslautern do score. But anyway, I'm just looking at that worst case scenario. That's always something to keep in mind. Best case scenario right now, we do get Firth to take the lead, and they go 2-1 up, and we've got a nice bit of green sitting on that, and the 3-1 as well. Break even if it remains 1-1. Let's see what happens. There's lots of time left in this one. It's 57 minutes. It's 1-1. 95 minutes are on the clock, and we've had a very late goal, and it has gone in our favour as Wagner has scored for Firth, and that's put us on that 2-1 scoreline. And as it stands, there's probably nothing more to do, but we're always going to err on the side of caution and lay it off, okay? And the big benefit of that is that, look, I mean, we're going to leverage up nicely if there is a third goal for Firth as well. So anyway, always worth doing. And anyway, you saw how this trade played out, and this should be, hopefully, a good example for those who wanted to see trades where it goes slightly against us. Okay, so initially did go against us with Kaiserslautern taking the lead and being ahead at half time. Thankfully, we did have some green to play with, but you saw that we put ourselves in a position where we were trying to lower our potential risk. We were always in danger of Kaiserslautern getting that second goal and killing our trade, and we're going to have to take a loss. Okay, and that was always there, and even late on it was still there. Kaiserslautern could have scored, and we're looking at a £30 loss. And anyway, that's one thing we did. We put ourselves in a position where we could minimize that potential loss and maximize that potential gain, and in the end we've walked out with £186 of profit. Not bad at all, and that is just to confirm the final whistle there. So not bad at all. Okay, we were down to potentially losing £30 or winning £186. That's a very nice risk reward ratio, and that is the beauty of trading the correct score market. If you can get your losses down to something like 30%, like we've just shown you, and get your wins up to 186%, then it takes a lot of the hard work out of this in the long term. So that is definitely the final score. Firth 2, Kaiserslautern 1. So a trade that started out bad, but we managed to turn around what was a bad trade initially. Okay, always a bit of a nightmare scenario when you've picked out a whole bunch of correct scores in favour of one team just for the underdog to take the lead. It's always, you're always up against it when that happens. However, you saw what we did and how it played out. Okay, as soon as Kaiserslautern took the lead and we were on the back foot, it was, the whole mission really was to avoid taking a maximum loss. Okay, avoid losing our whole stake. So we have initially lowered our risk down to at least a minus 75%. Then later on, we got it down to a minus 30%. Now, in doing so, remember, as you lower your risk on the correct score market, you're adding to your potential profits. So there's almost no reason not to lower your risk. There's almost no reason. And when you think about trading in the long term, you want to really look closely at what is your average profit per win and your average loss per loss. Okay, your average loss, I mean, if you're entering with what we're doing today, £100 stake, if your average loss is consistently going to be 100%, where you're just leaving that in the trade and crossing your fingers, so when you lose, you're going to lose 100%, but your average win is what, 50%, then you're up against it from a risk reward ratio perspective. But if you can get your average wins well above the 100% and your average losses much lower and closer to what, 75% that we had at one point, or closer to 30%, then you're going to find it much easier to profit and move forwards in the long term. Okay, so anyway, good trade, but I don't really want you to concentrate on the profits that were made at the end of that trade. I'd want you to concentrate on what we did with lowering the risk as much as we could. Okay, so anyway, we made a very nice profit in that one. Firth against Kaiserslautern, 2-1 in the end. And don't forget, if you are liking the look of correct score trading, you want to know how to take it to the next level, learn this in much more detail, then you can download this prospectus book for correct score mastery. It's free to download by clicking the link in the description or just scanning that QR code. Okay, we're going to leave the QR code on the screen all the way through the video so you can do it at any point. And this book will definitely put you on the right path towards learning and mastering the correct score market. And we're going to show you everything you can potentially learn about this market, and you're going to get a much more clearer idea about it all. So if correct score trading interests you in any way, then just get this free download. It's absolutely free to check out. As said, click the link below, fill in your best email address, and we're going to email it right to you. Click the we'll scan the QR code and then put in your best email address and we will email it right to you. You should have it in your inbox by the end of the video. Okay, so that's for those who want to take this to the next level. Anyway, that was an interesting trade, and we've got much more where that one came from. This one is going to be very interesting too. Go grab another nice cold beer and let's get into it. So we're getting involved in this match. It's the Turin derby with Torino against Juventus. Look at that draw price, 2.94. You don't normally see a draw price below 3. You don't normally see under 2.5 goals starting at around 1.46 or over 1.5 goals. So look, this is expected to be low scoring. We've covered all those low scores, as you can see. We're probably going to have to try and scalp that 0-0 in play as well as some sort of insurance. Anyway, let's see what happens as this develops. So it's half time in this one, and it's 0-0, which is no huge surprise. Just showing you the XG data there, because we're going to refer to that in a minute. But just to show you, look, we've covered that 0-0 during the first half. We scalped that down all the way down to 0. So that puts us in a very good position now for this particular match, because it doesn't look like there's going to be many goals. However, we're expecting 1 goal, at least, to Juventus. So we're going to hang in, looking for that 1 goal. We could cash out for, say, what, £23 of profit there, but we're going to try and hang on for that 1-0 to Juventus and then see what develops. Okay, 1 goal could open the match. But either way, we're covered on that 0-0. So we shouldn't lose if it remains 0-0. Anyway, let's see how the second half develops. We're late in the match on this one. It's still 0-0, and it's probably going to finish 0-0. Okay, so anyway, as you know, we've covered that 0-0. We've taken the insurance on the 0-0. And nothing's happened. No goals have gone in. There's no action to take. We're just going to end up breaking even on this one. So it just shows you what you can do on the correct score market. We took the insurance on the 0-0. We've had that insurance kick in. And bit of a boring match. We weren't watching it, so no real time lost. But in the end, yeah, it's going to finish probably Torino 0, Juventus 0. And so Torino, Juventus, the 0-0, the match where nothing much actually happened. However, the key takeaway is that it did finish 0-0, and we managed to avoid a loss on a 0-0, which for a lot of football traders is definitely a very positive thing. The 0-0 scenario often being the nightmare scenario for a lot of football traders and a lot of strategies. However, when you're trading on the correct score, it is possible, as you've seen, to have a 0-0 and avoid a loss. However, upon reflection of the trade and looking back on the trade, I mean, all the clues were there that this match could be a potential 0-0. We could see it was a tight matchup with Torino and Juventus. We could see the unders and the under 2.5 goals and 1.5 goals, very low prices. So why didn't we potentially aim for a profit on the 0-0? Okay, why, looking back, maybe should have had some green starting out on the 0-0 scoreline, and we could have potentially built up that green as the match developed. And that is something to keep in mind. However, I would just say it all depends on your trading style. Okay, I'm much more goal positive, so I'd much more prefer to be trading a match where we're going to start to get some goals and we can start to trade the score lines and advance that way, rather than hoping for a 0-0. Okay, there's no worse feeling than a goal goes in and it's not a goal you need. Okay, so it's definitely a fair argument for potentially covering that 0-0. However, remember, say the match kicks off within 5 minutes, let's say Juventus take the lead, suddenly you're regretting backing that 0-0, aren't you? So lots of stuff to keep in mind. And just another little lesson from this particular match, and this is for a lot of people who do follow the channel, and I often say, look, we don't show trades where nothing much happens because it's kind of boring. Okay, it's not going to make for a very good YouTube video. However, apparently people want to see it. So anyway, we've included it, but it's a good lesson for you out there to know that not every match is going to be a spectacular. Not every match is going to be a trading spectacular. You're going to get a lot of matches in football where you're trading where, yeah, nothing much happens, and you could end up, yeah, with a 0-0 and you're just kind of sitting around doing nothing, which is why I advocate for trading multiple matches all at once. Okay, you might get one match which is a complete dud, but to get a whole batch of duds is some incredible bad luck. And of course, don't fit your whole day around the trading. Okay, do whatever you've got to do, and then trade a batch of matches at, say, the end of the day or 3 o'clock on a Saturday, for example. So anyway, that was Torino Juventus. The less said about that match, the better. A 0-0 draw in the end. So we've got a match from the Premier League. It's Brentford against Sheffield United. Brentford 1.49 favourite. So we've got a very strong, clear favourite. This makes it very, well, much more simple, and strong over 2.5 goals also. So anyway, look, we've covered a lot of these scorelines in favour of Brentford. Our plan B is a 1-0 to Sheffield United and a 1-1. And that's as far as we're willing to go, just because Brentford are such a strong favourite. Okay, now £100 stake on Brentford, one gives us £49 of profit potential to play with. On the correct score market, we've got £80 of profit potential to play with, and our plan Bs. Anyway, it's just about to kick off. Let's see how this one goes in play. So just reached half time in this one. It's Brentford 0, Sheffield United 0, and we're actually in a good position. I mean, I'd much prefer a 0-0 at half-time than, say, a 3-0 at half-time, okay, when you're trading the correct score market. So anyway, we're in a good position. We've got 1-0, 0-1 covered, and we've got to expect that there's going to be some goals in the second half. Brentford are a strong favourite. Let's see what happens in that second half. 65 minutes on the clock, and this is much more like it. Brentford have just taken the lead. 1-0 to Brentford. We're on that 1-0 scoreline. We're going to lay it off. Okay, we've got to expect that Brentford are going to at least score 2 goals in this one. And so we're going to trade out that 1-0, put that down to 0, bumps up the profit on the 1-1 and the 2-0 to Brentford. But judging from, look, the XG and everything, this should be a comfortable win for Brentford. 2 or 3-0 at least. But anyway, let's see what happens next. It's 1-0 to Brentford. This is going perfectly to plan so far. There's still 25 minutes left plus time added on. 94 minutes on the clock. Brentford have doubled the lead. They're 2-0 up, and we're pretty much at time up anyway. But anyway, well, look, we're going to lay off some of the profit on this 2-0 to potentially give us an even bigger profit should there be another goal. To Brentford probably won't be, but it's worth doing, and then we could bump up our profits substantially. But either way, looks like we're going to walk out with a 104% return on our stake as a minimum. Now remember, we enter this match £100 stake, a Brentford win, £49 of profit potential. But by trading the correct score market, we've got that profit up to £104. Anyway, we're out. Brentford 2, Sheffield United 0. So that Brentford-Sheffield United match, that was definitely one of those correct score trades which went pretty much perfectly to plan. And that wasn't the hugest surprise, because I always say strong favourites often make for much more straightforward correct score market trades. So there's a big golden nugget for you right there. If you can find a strong favorite, heavily odds on, around that sort of price that Brentford were, especially one where you're expecting them to keep a clean sheet, then, well, you could be on to a very simple trade, okay? And you saw how it played out there. Obviously, a third goal would have worked out even nicer for us. But also, a good indication of another thing with correct score trading is that late goals work best, okay? You saw me mention that, look, it was 0-0 at half-time. I'm not worried when it's 0-0 at half-time. I'm more worried when it's multiple goals at half-time. That's what gives you the headache in the correct score market, depending on, obviously, the score lines you've picked, of course. But 0-0 at half-time, when we've got 1-0 to the favourite covered, is absolutely fine. If we get onto that 1-0 to the favourite, as we did, we were then at that point very strong, okay? Potentially only break even at worst. And then we got that late goal in stoppage time, which put us on the 2-0. And that there it was, okay? And just another point from this trade to bring up as well is that we improved significantly on that match odds potential profit. So here's the thing. If you're going to trade the correct score market, it's obviously a lot more complex and potentially time consuming to trade the correct score market rather than just trade in the match odds market. So we're not trading the correct score market just to look like we're clever and we're cool. We're trading it because there's got to be some sort of distinct advantage to trade in that correct score market over the match odds market. So if it was a case of, look, let's just back Brentford, and if they go on and win by any sort of scoreline, we can make a 49% return on our stake. However, if we're getting involved in a correct score market, we want to look to be able to make more than that 49% return. Otherwise, it's not really worth the risk and the complexity. So in this case, we made more than double that, which is absolutely fine. That's not always going to be possible because sometimes there will be some absolutely crazy, insane scenarios which will happen. However, if you can more than double that match odds potential profit, then you're doing well, okay? We've basically backed Brentford, not in the match odds market, but in the correct score market, and we've returned double the profit that we would have made on the match odds market. And if you stick to that sort of principle, you can't fail to not be ahead in the long term. So anyway, Brentford versus Sheffield United, that was definitely a very straightforward, almost perfect to plan, correct score trade. So we've got more to come in just a moment, but if you haven't done so already, I would really, really love it if you could click the like button on this video. If you've made it this far in a video, chances are you probably like it, right? Also, while you're there, you might want to hit that subscribe button, but most importantly, hit the notification bell. You want to get notified as soon as those new videos come out so you can see them as soon as they are available. All right. Anyway, we're going to dive into another live example. And again, this is going to be an interesting one for you to check out because this is another trade which goes a little bit pear-shaped. Definitely not as smooth as the last trade you checked out. Anyway, let's get back into it right now. Got a match here from the Premier League with Nottingham Forest against Wolves. Forest here, 2.12 favourites. So let's just look at the goal markets and we can see over and under, yeah, pretty much 50-50. So anyway, it's a hard one to call. We've covered a lot of these score lines, 0-1, 1-0. Obviously, we're favouring Nottingham Forest, who are the pre-match favourite. But it's one of those matches you do feel could kind of go either way. Anyway, we're fully prepared for it. And let's see how this one develops in play. Okay, we've got a lot of these score lines covered. Around £67 of profit potential. Nottingham Forest against Wolves, just about to kick off. We've just reached half-time and it's Nottingham Forest 1, Wolves 1. Wolves took the lead, Forest have equalised. So we're on this 1-1 scoreline, and so in a bit of a sticky situation in this trade. Remember, we entered it favouring Nottingham Forest. A lot of those score lines are now dead, but we are on this 1-1, as you can see. So what we can do, we can start to lower the risk down on this trade. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it around, and what you can see is I'm going to put all the liability on the 1-1. That's what we're going to do here. We've got to try and dig ourselves out of a sticky situation. So we're moving the liability onto the 1-1 scoreline, and you can see that hopefully very shortly. Hopefully it gets taken in this clip. All right, it's been taken now. So this is slightly different. We're not going down to 0 on the 1-1. We're moving all the liability on it, which is going to lower our risk substantially on the rest of the trade. Okay, and this is definitely worth doing because if Wolves go 2-1 up, we're definitely in trouble. So anyway, that's pretty much being taken. And anyway, yeah, let's just see what happens in the second half of this one. 57 minutes on the clock. Nottingham Forest have taken the lead, or have they? Okay, it's definitely, well, it's been a goal. They've got the ball over the line, but the VAR are running some checks. So look at the market. It's not fully accepting that this is a goal just yet. So we're going to have to take a pause. Wait for that goal to be confirmed, and then we will be right back. Okay, we're back. The goal was confirmed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to lay off this 2-1 scoreline to Nottingham Forest. This is obviously good news that Nottingham Forest are taking the lead, but we're not out of the woods yet. And so we are going to lay it off. And to be honest, our final target score is going to be the 3-1 to Nottingham Forest. If that does come, then yeah, I mean, we've turned this tricky trade into a good one. But we've got to put this down to 0 on the 2-1. Okay, because obviously Wolves 2-2. We need to get some green on that just in case that scenario does develop. But anyway, we're looking for 3-1 to Nottingham Forest. If we can hit that, then we're out with something from this. But yeah, it's not been easy. Let's see what happens. There's about half an hour left to go in this one. Nottingham Forest 2, Wolves 1. 64 minutes. We've had another goal. It has not gone the way we wanted. It's 2-2. So Wolves have levelled it. That gives us the, well, puts us on the 2-2 scoreline with that £17 of profit. So that 3-1, the 184 potential profit is not a possibility anymore. And to be honest, we're probably just going to leave it at that. We're just going to leave it at that. It's Nottingham Forest 2, Wolves 2. We've got £17 of profit on that score. That's a 17% return. Considering this has been a very difficult match to trade from the correct score market, we should just be happy. We're actually going to walk out with a positive result from this one, because this could easily have gone very, very differently. We've ended up on the 2-2, which was not a scoreline we covered initially also. So anyway, you've seen how this one played out. We're just going to be thankful for a positive result on this one. We're out. Forest 2, Wolves 2. So that Nottingham Forest against Wolves match, it actually did finish 2-2. So they had all their goals early on, and then the final 25 minutes plus time added on. Nothing after that. But anyway, this trade was a good example of when you're trading the correct score market, you always have options. Now at half time, we were in a bit of a sticky situation. We were already dead on a few score lines. I did mention before the match that I thought this would be quite even. Wolves were then showing at that point that it was going to be quite even. And so we had to take some sort of action. I decided we're going to move all our liability onto what was one of our target scores initially. Okay, 1-1 was one of our target scores. A lot of people might just leave it at that, hope for the best. However, I looked forward and thought that, well, it's probably not going to remain this 1-1. So let's move all our liability onto it. And remember, at the same time, we're not like we're taking further risk. Okay, so our initial liability was that £100 stake. It always remained at that £100 stake. Okay, you might see some examples out there that people put out there where it's like, oh, okay, we'll enter the trade with £100 of risk, and then, oh, it's going badly. All right, let's throw another £100 of risk. Let's throw another £200 of risk. Suddenly, you're looking at risking your whole bank to try and dig yourself out of the trade. As you saw there, we did not add any sort of additional risk to the trade. But as said, you've always got options when you're trading that correct score market. That was one of them. And you saw a good example of, I mean, what we did there, just took an early exit when it was going wrong. Okay, so we ended up on that 2-2. There was still options. There was still stuff we could have done after that. But it was never going to be the ideal match where we were going to potentially make 100% return on our stake, was it? So when that happens, you're better off just exiting early and moving on. Okay, there are so many football matches to trade. There's no need to stick with one which is not quite going to plan and ending up taking silly risks, etc., etc. Just take an early exit when it's not going to plan. Move on to the next one. Okay, and also it's a good example of how we actually did profit in the end, didn't we? Okay, we still made a 17% return on our stake. It's not the type of aims we're aiming for when we're trading the correct score market, but it's still positive. We still profited even though this match went terribly wrong. Okay, we ended up on a 2-2 scoreline, which was not one of our target scores, and we ended up on that 2-2 scoreline at 65 minutes, so still fairly early on in the match. So anyway, that's a good example of why trading the correct score market. Look, you've always got options. and you can profit even when you get it wrong. And as said earlier, if any of this correct score trading looks interesting to you, you want to learn more about it, make sure you get this free download. It's the Correct Score Mastery course prospectus. This will show you how you could potentially take things to the next level with your correct score trading. To get this free ebook, the link is in the description of this video. Just scroll below the video, click on it, fill out the form, and then we'll email the book to you. If you're on a big screen, you can scan that QR code and then fill out the form, and we'll email you the book also. Okay, it's absolutely free, and it will be the next step towards potentially learning and mastering the correct score market. So if you've liked anything you've seen today and you do want to learn more about it, then that's the next thing to do. Okay, go grab a copy of that. As said, link in the description, or scan the QR code. Now also, if you did like what you've seen today and you do want to learn even more and go even deeper, there should be a good video on the screen right now with even more detail, and I strongly advise clicking on that video and checking out. Go grab another nice cold beer, and I will see you in the next video.